Welcome to Pool Startup Stories. I'm Louis Sheets, faculty member at NC State Pool College of Management. I'm here today with Randy Ramsey, founder of Jarrett Bay Boats. I'm really excited about our conversation today and learning more about you, your entrepreneurial journey, Jarrett Bay, and a couple other things too. But let's start with, tell us a little bit about you before Jarrett Bay.
Sure. So, kids growing up, everybody says, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you hear the same stuff. I want to be a fireman. I want to be a police officer. I want to be a college professor. I mean, we hear all those things, a teacher. I wanted to be a charter boat captain. And I've never met anybody else that had that desire. By the time I was very young, I went fishing with an uncle of mine in South Carolina who ran a charter boat, sort of on the side. He had a real job too. Mm-hmm. And I said, wait a minute, you can get paid to go fishing? I'm all about it. That's what I want to do. So from, 12 years old or so, I started documenting days I was in the ocean to start working towards my license to be able to carry people for hire in the ocean. And on my 18th birthday, I achieved that. I was the youngest person licensed by the U.S. Coast Guard to carry passengers at that point in my life, which was 1980. Yeah. And, it was just one of those things I always wanted to do. And I knew from very young that my career would be running charters. Cool. And that's where it all started.
You actually had a charter boat.
I did.
You ran that for a while, and then you got into boats, building them. How'd you get there? Why boats?
Well, I came from very humble beginnings. My folks did all they could for me, and unfortunately, they lived through all the inflation and so forth that we saw in the 70s and early 80s, really more in the 70s. But so they'd struggled, and we lived here at the beach by that point. As luck would have it, somebody got broke down at Cape Lookout and needed a tow in, and my dad, who was running Marina at the time, sent me to get them. Well, the guy was named Herbert Marshall, and he had a company called Starflight Gas and Oil. And he had taken a contract to take some junk cars off Cape Lookout. Well, he sort of appreciated the tow, and I got a job helping him as a very young man. So I helped run the boat and the tugboat and was crew on the tugboat, bringing these old junk cars off. Well, when I wanted to buy that first charter boat, banks wouldn't loan me any money. My parents didn't have the wherewithal. Well, Mr. Marshall saw a little something in me, and he loaned me the money to buy that first charter boat, which we named Starflight, because the name of his company in Wake Forest was Starflight Gas and Oil. So that's sort of how it started with the charter boats. And the question you ask is, how do we get the boat building? Yeah. And that's even a crazier twist. The boat I had it just wouldn't do the work. We certainly were doing fine. We were running a lot of charters, but it's no different than anybody else who's got some entrepreneurial spirit. They want better, faster, more efficient. How can we get there and do this job better than we've been doing it? So a fellow named Jim Luxton and myself decided we were going to build a boat together. So we went and found some more friends in Winston-Salem that had some wherewithal, and we actually built the boat for them. So we rented an old tin shed for $250 a month and started building a boat. And it took us 11 months. We named it Sensation, which is still on the boat today, and she's still fishing today. And as we got finished with another local charter guy said, that thing came out okay. Will you build one for me? And that just sort of progressed. By the time we finished it, we'd sold 2 more. And by the time we finished it, we'd sold 3 more. And then we ended up moving facilities. And well, before long, there was no time to charter fish anymore. We were boat builders. Boat builders by accident, really.
Yeah, that's fantastic. When you started, so Jarrett Bay is now 35 years old, mm-hmm. and you've done a ton, but most people recognize the brand and recognize the boat. It is the prettiest boat on the water, right?
So you're making brownie points already.
Yeah, I'm all about it, right? So starting out 86.
Mm-hmm.
What were some of the adversities you might have faced back then, and then how did you overcome them?
Well, maybe I wasn't smart enough to understand some of the adversity we were facing. Looking back on it, I see just how challenged we were and how we probably shouldn't have made it. I mean, one really quick story is people seem to love the name Jarrett Bay. And you would think we went and did some study to try to figure that out. Well, the fact of the matter is the first place we started building boats for that $250 a month was on a body of water named Jarrett Bay. Yeah. And I was trying to buy some materials from a manufacturer. And I called up and I said, I want to buy this drum of epoxy resin. And they said, that's great, we'll be glad to sell it to you. What's your company name? I said, well, we don't have a company name. They said, no company, no resin. So I gazed out the back door at the body of water called Jarrett Bay and said, well, we're Jarrett Bay Boatworks. So it was born out of complete necessity in the moment.
Yeah.
And it just sort of stuck. I guess that we faced a lot of adversity and trials, whether it's living through the recessions that we've lived through in 35 years, workforce issues. But probably the largest thing that we faced is capital issues, which is probably the same thing most entrepreneurs face. When they have an idea or they have even a better mousetrap, it's hard to get capital from traditional methods if you don't have a track record of already earning money. Yeah. So it's, sort of the chicken or the egg. You can't earn the money without the help, and you can't get the help unless you've earned the money. So I think throughout our company's history, it's really been a bootstrap up type of situation, right on until today, because my style is we continue to push limits. We continue to push opportunities so that it's allowed us to grow to the kind of company we are today.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And that attitude and that grit sort of resides in our students at NC State, that think and do, sort of push through. And we talk about that bootstrap mentality and sort of pushing forward in class. So that'll resonate great.
Good.
So thank you for that. In terms of, you build very special boats, right? You launch about one a year, right? Very specific market. How do you market to such a niche with such a special product?
Early on in our company, we were building very plain boats. The charter boats that are in use in the first half a dozen or more that we built, they were really very plain. I mean, the bare essentials, because in order to make a living charter fishing, you couldn't afford all the luxuries that we do today. Our market started to shift in the fifth boat we built, and then we've seen it continue to shift. And sort of the motto of our company has always been, we're going to do it better every day. We're never going to go backwards. If the last boat isn't better than the boat before it, we failed. And if we're not doing it right, if we've made a mistake, let's not cover it up. Let's tear the mistake out, fix it at that point, and then move forward. So we've always had a lot of pride in what we've done. As to how we market, you're right. It is a very niche market, and we are looking for some of the most successful people in the world, or the people to buy our boats. Early on, it was a very different market. When I was marketing to charter fishing guys, I was standing on the charter dock shaking hands and trying to build a relationship, which is what it's all about. But now it's a few targeted boat shows for us. It's some targeted print advertising still. It's videos about how we build our boats and send them out to targeted groups. But a lot of the boats we build are involved in the tournament fishing circuit. So I've spent a lot of time on my personal boat or on our company boats at tournaments, building relationships, welcoming people aboard even though it may not be the latest and greatest, to give them an idea of the craftsmanship we expect and we deliver. And in the end, it's all about the relationship they build with me and the people here. It's not necessarily about the boat that we complete, because they might like builder A's this or builder B's that, but when they find themselves in a position they can trust you, and in a position they know you're going to do the right thing. But I think when you have passion for what you do and who you are, it's pretty easy to sell that. Yeah. But I tell people regularly, we sell people that could cost as much as $20 million, and all we have is a sketch pad and a pile of wood. Yeah. And to sell a customer on the fact we can turn that pile of wood into $20 million of beauty, that's about awesome. Relationships.
Yeah, yeah. And being able to recognize that vision and then turn it into something real is amazing. You just hit on something I want to touch on. Like your team and the culture here is amazing, right? You really, in your stories that you tell, and the companies that you've built, that always seems to be forward thinking, right? Sure. How do we build that culture? Over 35 years, a lot of things have changed since 1986, right? So how have you been able to keep that throughout the time, or has it changed? And if so, how did you manage that?
Well, so there's a lot of things I could weave into that. It's interesting. I get the credit for the boats we build, but the boats we're building today, I'm not building them. I mean, I'm doing a whole different job here. My job is to work with the customers, understand what they want, figure out what the vision is going forward. So we have surrounded ourselves, or I've surrounded myself, with boat builders who are trying to push technology and trying to find ways to do things better. And craftsmen that frankly would fire me. They would not think my craft is good enough to build what we do today. And then they should fire me.
Yeah.
So I can't do some of their jobs. I think that we like to believe here, and I know it's overused, that it's a culture of a family. We're one big family. And when somebody else is hurting or somebody else is celebrating, we want to be there for both of those things.
If you look at entrepreneurs across all types of industries, there's an entrepreneur that can adjust and move in different roles, right? You started out as a charter fisherman, and then you started building boats, and now you're an executive and you run a very large corporation with thousands of employees. Lots of different aspects of the job duties changed over time, and that's rare. You don't normally see that in one person be able to wear all those different hats over a certain amount of times. Like, did that come natural to you? Did you struggle through that? Like, give us some insight on that.
Well, first of all, we're not thousands of employees.
Okay.
I appreciate the comment. Thank you. I appreciate it. We're in the hundreds still.
Okay, all right.
I think that's a very interesting question. I've always been able to surround myself with people who might know more about what we were trying to accomplish that day than I was. We started boat building. I don't want to pretend that I did it all. Jim Luxton was the guy who he did know more about boat building. He had an eye for it. He had studied it. He had thought about it. But I was kind of the guy that was pushing. We need to finish this today. We need to get this done today. Sort of a sense of urgency. And he and I made a good team like that. I think you have to evolve in your role. I didn't think much about doing payroll when we started the first boat. But before long, I was doing payroll on the kitchen table in my house and trying to withhold taxes and do things I'd never thought about doing. I think that any entrepreneur, however, can adapt like that. I think true entrepreneurs, whether they're buying businesses or whether they're coming up with great ideas, I think their willingness to put themselves out there. And I think if you're going to be a successful entrepreneur, you have to do that.
Yeah.
But I think it's a maturing process as well. I'm a very different person than I was when I was 18 years old and I went and got my captain's license. And some of that is going through the hardness of trying to run a business and trying to grow a business. And it really doesn't matter, how big the business gets or how successful it appears to be. There's always problems. There's always challenges that come in front of us that we have to find ways to face. And it's how we face those challenges, I think, is what defines us and makes us successful or not.
One misconception, especially when we're talking about our college entrepreneurship program, is that we're focused on new ventures or small businesses. We already mentioned Jarrett Bay's 35 years old, right? And so obviously not a new venture anymore, but still has this entrepreneurial spirit to it. Like, how have you been able to keep that as part of that culture that we talked about earlier and part of the whole makeup of the company?
Well, once Jarrett Bay started to sort of thrive, which I guess you could define very early on because we were selling more boats then than we sell now. But the boats we sell now would cost more than 40 of those put together.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit the boats are slightly different today than they were. It'd be a great study for somebody to go on our first boat and our last boat, and they would probably tell you that the same person had nothing to do with these. I think some of that is how we think as people, how we're wired, what we're interested in doing. We've tried to find things to continue to do here that complement what we do. But again, I talked about the boats. If we're not doing something a little better every day, I think we fail. And if my job here is as much as anything is looking to what's the next trend or what sort of boat line can we work on, or how can we expand this side of our business, or where might be a good sales office, or how do we appeal to a different market of consumer? Because we talk about building the boats, and that's what brought us here, and that's what we're very proud of. But we do just as much revenue in boat repair as we do in boat building. I actually do a bit more in repair. We've tailored a lot of our offerings around the repair side, not the manufacturing. We could manufacture anywhere really, and until the boats get to a certain size. But anywhere on the water, we wouldn't have to have as deep a water as we have or the kind of facility we have. But we've also branched out into boat sales. We sell other people's boats. So other boat builders sell their boats through one of our companies. And we've tried to find things that would complement along the way. You know, one of the things we did start trying to do, and I think this might show the maturity of the company, is we've started looking for other revenue streams. You know, the boating business comes and goes with the economy, and we're very much like the airplane business or the second home business or even the RV business, all of which are doing great today. Typically, when we see downturns in the U.S. economy, the toys are the first to go. Okay. So we have to position ourselves to survive it when the toys aren't being purchased and they aren't being built. And I think as any company grows, that's something that any entrepreneur should look at, is how do I complement that, whether that's through you know, real estate holdings or other sources of income that might not be tied directly to what we do.
I want to switch a little bit and talk about, I mentioned earlier about your giving of time. Let's talk about Big Rock.
Sure.
Right? I know it's really important it's really important to this area in Eastern North Carolina. It's a worldwide event, but the impact it's had on Eastern North Carolina has been tremendous. How is that, I'm going to ask you in two different ways. How's that helped you personally? Because I think you get a lot from it, but also how's it helped Jarrett Bay as a brand and a boat company?
Yeah, so I'm really proud of Big Rock Blue Marlin Terminal. I'm proud of the people who are on the board and the staff that's there. That whole organization has been bold. It's been a very bold organization of leadership who have pushed to try to make things a little better tournament, or maybe a better event, or how do we attract more people, or how do we branch out into retail, which we've done a lot of in that tournament. I was asked to be on that board in 1987, and since then I have been a big part of it. You know, the Big Rock is really great for this community. I mean, the story of the Big Rock is a lot like entrepreneurship. I mean, some businessmen in Morehead City put together 250 silver dollars in a little red wagon as a bounty for the first one that was ever caught. Well, a boat called the Mary Z caught 163 years ago, and they felt like it would be an economic boom for the area to prove that blue marlin swam here. So that was pretty exciting. I mean, that's a pretty exciting deal to see that happen. I'm sure I wish I'd been there. In 1987, I was asked to be part of the Big Rock board, which I was very humbled to be part of. And since then, that tournament has grown into the largest blue marlin tournament in the world. You know, we have people who come to Carteret County, plan their vacations completely around when the Big Rock is. And these are people that aren't fishing it. These are people that just want to be part of it. And when you see an organization that's given millions of dollars to charity over the years, contributes hundreds of millions of dollars to the local economy with a 100% volunteer board, nobody gets paid a cent, and everybody buys their T-shirts. And something that people look forward to all year round. You know, it's really great. It's great to be part of that. You know, you ask about Jarrett Bay and how it ties in, and we've been a long-time sponsor of the tournament. Because earlier we were talking about our target audience. Well, that's it. That's our target audience, and they're coming from all over the East Coast and sometimes all over the world. You know, I think that anytime you put a group of selfless people together to try to accomplish something, who are all there for the common good, no matter what that common good is, and they're obedient to their beliefs, and they try to do the right thing every time, most times you're going to find success. And fortunately, we've been able to do that with the Big Rock.
That's cool. And I know you are always excited when you see a Jarrett Bay boat coming in with the winning fish too.
Well,
so.
you know, I'm not going to lie about it. I might have favorites. You know, even though I try not to show it on the radio, I might have a few favorites.
Yeah, that's awesome. In addition to Big Rock, you've done a ton for NC State, the Wolfpack Club, for the university. Also, something that's special to you is cancer research and care for cancer patients. That's close to me as well. What drives you from that aspect, and why do that from a personal standpoint?
Well, you know, I appreciate you asking that question. And that might be a little harder for me to answer than some of the other ones. I believe that I've been richly blessed, and a lot of it's because of the people that have come into my life. I like to think that through my work with the university and in the university system and the Big Rock and other boards I've been part of, that maybe it's helping open some doors or bring something positive or helpful into others' lives. I think it's our duty. I think it's our duty as human beings to try to help one another. And I think that those of us who have had a real opportunity, there should be a real burden associated with making sure we're helping others. I mean, we'll try to give freely, not only in the community, but from business-wise as well, but to whatever extent we can. But, higher education, as I said earlier, became a big passion of mine. So if I can help through higher education to help lift young people up so they be more successful, and I'm winning every day.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. All right, let's go to the young people. Not just young college students, but any young person sort of thinking about entrepreneurship as their pathway. What type of advice would you give them?
Yeah, I knew this question would come. I even thought about this one a little bit, and I didn't really come up with a very good answer. Yeah. But if somebody's first starting out and they're looking to either work for somebody or they want to start their own company, I think they just need to kind of work every day with a real positive attitude that we can do this. There's going to be adversity and there's going to be failure. I think when we really figure out if people have got that real spirit or not is when they fail, or when they almost fail, do they quit or do they keep trying to push. There are equally as many failures in my business life as successes. Yeah. And I think if you talk to any real entrepreneur, they'll tell you that. I think it's the ability to take the failure and learn from it and potentially even modify it so it can become successful, or at least hold its own. All of our companies don't always make money. Yeah. And it's always a challenge for me to try to figure out, so we're doing something wrong. Our message is wrong, our product isn't quite right. What is it we need to do in order to improve that? And I think that if people will do those things, if they will believe in themselves, if they'll pick great people to be around. You hear this all the time. It's often, maybe it's overused. I surround myself with people who are smarter and more ambitious than I am. If you have an opportunity to do that, that's the right thing to do. You hear this about our sports teams, right? Maybe NC State's football team's gonna be great this year. I hope they're the national champions. But if they don't play together, and if you're not working together with your teammates, you're doomed.
Yeah, right. That's great. One thing that pull from that is we talk about failure is going to happen. It's only really failure if you don't learn from it, right? And move forward from that learning. You're going to be a better person. You're going to be a better entrepreneur. That's awesome. All right, let's wrap this up by telling us what's the future for Randy Ramsey and Jarrett Bay. What's happening next?
Yeah, it's funny. Yesterday afternoon, my top couple or three people will end up in my office a lot of afternoons. We're talking about, where the next building we want to build, or what the next thought process, or what crazy idea I may have come up with that they're going to try to discourage me from doing. And I asked one of our guys yesterday, I said, do you think I'm as aggressive as I once was? And he said, no, I don't think so. And he could tell he kind of hurt my feelings a little bit. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, you're just coasting now. He said, back when you didn't have any wherewithal, we were doing a whole lot more. Well, that was a pretty good challenge, and I think that as I reflected on it last night, and I told my wife, she said, he just doesn't know all you're doing. That's the problem. But where he started that conversation was, well, let's take over the world and we'll see what we actually get to. I think that we're going to see our company continue to expand in other markets. Not necessarily boat building, but the boat repair is something that we can make great strides in across the country, potentially. I think we're always looking for opportunities like that. I'm also always looking for opportunities we can complement what we do. I mean, we own a boat sales company that's got 9 offices in 6 states. And that complements who we are and what we do. Whether we're selling boats that are built by another manufacturer or selling our boats. Those connections and relationships are helping everything we do and put it all forward. So I think you'll see us continue to try to diversify in other income streams so that we can survive the hard times. I think you'll see us continuing to expand our repair offerings. And I think you'll see us continue to try to take advantage of the brand awareness that we built. I mean, I don't think any of us as entrepreneurs need to discount that. Right. When I'm riding up and down the highways, I'm constantly thinking about, how did they come up with that idea? Where did that come from? And
It's a blessing and a curse, isn't it?
it really can be, right? It really can
It
be.
is. Thank you, Randy. This
Sure.
has been fantastic.
Lewis,
for
I
me,
really
and
enjoyed
It's
it.
going to be a great video for our students and our alumni and our entire ecosystem.
I think what you all are doing is terrific.
Thank
I mean, you know, when I talked to Dean the other day about this series that you all were doing, and I don't know what they thought I was going to say, no, or heck no, or what.
You've provided a lot.
But I
today,
said,
Ken.
you know, I think it's great. I think it's great for entrepreneurs to be able to hear from other people, and you know, not occasionally, pretty often I have people coming out, they'll make an appointment,
Yeah.
and they want to come and talk about, you know, I've got an idea to do this, and how does that fit, or where does this go? And again, it's incumbent on all of us, right?
Goes back to that mentoring component that you've always sort of experienced and given. So it's awesome. Cool.
Yeah, good.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, man,
Yep.
absolutely.